The comment I always get when I tell people that I'm a flight attendant is that I couldn't do your job. And I think to myself, I don't know how I'm doing my job either. My first training flight, I did the safety demo in front of Queen Latifah, and I told her I should have had you take my picture doing the demo so I could send it to my mom. My first working flight was an emergency landing. The passengers were more worried about me on my first day than they were skidding down the runway. Luckily, that didn't happen. I feel the reason I have done this job for so long is because I meet new people every time I come to work. For 3 days, these people are your friends, therapists, and allies. And yes, we have the term jump seat therapy. And at the time, I needed a lot. The camaraderie we create is palpable and instant. We have to be able to think quickly with a smile on our face. We go through 7 weeks of training, and 2 of those days covers beverage service. So we're able to take control of any situation, even if we don't want to. The moment you think that you've experienced everything, you're thrown into a new situation. And this is one of those situations that changed me. It was an exciting week. We had just gotten our new uniforms. Everyone looked fresh. I meet our crew of 4 flight attendants. Monica is our flight leader. And she was wearing the signature dress. It's deep purple, it's form-fitting. And it perfectly accentuated her makeup, hair, and nails. She is everything that you think of when you picture a flight attendant in your mind. She's a born leader. After a long day, we get to our final flight. And this is when we discuss what we're going to do on our layover in Sacramento. And me, I was going to get my hair cut. It was so long. It was in my face. I needed a haircut. We get to the plane. We check our safety equipment. We start the boarding process. Everything is going smoothly. We're almost finished boarding, and this is when I hear constant chimes and screaming. This is when I have my out-of-body experience. I remember what I was doing, but I don't remember what I was saying to people. I ran to find this large man at the window seat. He was stiff, his eyes were rolling around, and I yell at him, "Sir, are you okay? Are you okay?" He's unresponsive. This is when I managed to run up to the front of the plane, even though everyone is just worried about where they're going to put their bags in the overhead bins. Monica told me that I yelled for her to call for a doctor and page for EMS. I yell at the flight attendant in the back to grab the medical equipment. I return to the man, and I'm greeted with an ER nurse and these 2 beefy men. Every year for 20 years, I have been practicing for this situation. And I actually think to myself, step 1, move this man to a flat surface. Somehow me and these beefy men get him to the aisle. There's no room to move. Step 2, rip open his shirt. I had been watching so many Grey's Anatomy episodes at the time, and because those buttons went flying everywhere. The first thing I think of is, thank God he doesn't have a hairy chest, because I didn't want to shave his chest. Step 3, I I look to the ER nurse and she asks, "Do you need me to get over there?" There's no time. I clench my hands over each other. I place them over his chest. And I look at the ER nurse and she says, "Yes." I press down. I can feel and hear his ribs cracking. His eyes are rolling around. And this is when I channel my inner Meredith Grey, and I yell at him to stay with me. "You are not going to die." And all these other medical drama quotes that I had been listening to for the past couple days. Some medical equipment arrives. They were things that I couldn't use. There was an infant face mask and other things that weren't useful in that situation. And I'm not criticizing my coworker because she was frozen in the moment. She didn't know how to react. I didn't know how I was reacting because previously I had been the person that have avoided these medical situations. At this point, I'm still doing chest compressions. His breathing is becoming more erratic, and he begins foaming at the mouth, and this becomes step 4. We need to clear his airway. Somehow we manage to turn him on his side in the aisle. I pinch his cheeks. The nurse yells at me, "Don't stick your fingers in his mouth. He will bite off your finger." He's breathing again. We attach the oxygen to him. Now the captain is behind me, making sure that I'm okay, and his low, deep pilot voice, "Charlie, are you okay?" At this point, I see a purple blur crawling over people seated in their seats. It's Monica. She's going back to get the defibrillator that I need. Moments later, she's next to me, and we're sticking those pads right on his chest. They stick really great when you don't have a hairy chest. This amazing device is monitoring his heartbeat. And I think back to 15 years earlier when I was on a flight and I met the man that invented this machine. He was very humble and just talked to me about everything that he did and how this device is saving so many people's lives. I gave him so many free drinks on that flight. I mean, I haven't charged anyone for drinks because once I lost my credit card machine, everyone got free drinks. But this time, I made it known that he was getting free drinks and how I was so appreciated for him. At this point, this AED tells us to shock his heart. His body jolts. I am surprised that no one else was shocked when we pressed that button because we had no room to move. We shock him again. His breathing has come back. I go back into chest compressions. The captain is still behind me, asking me if I'm okay. The ER nurse is nodding. His wife is crying. It took 13 minutes for EMTs to show up. At this point, I was completely exhausted, and I went up to the front of the plane, and I collapsed to the ground, and Monica joined me. And she leans over and says to me, "Charlie, you shouldn't cut your hair. It flowed back and forth perfectly while you're doing those chest compressions." At this point, I am laughing and crying and thinking, this is why I do my job. I haven't seen Monica since. I don't know if this man survived, but I know he left the plane stable. Which later I found out is not common. Once you reach the point of needing CPR in defibrillation, your chances of survival are only 40%. I didn't feel like a hero. I actually felt guilty that I didn't do enough for him. And it took a long time for me to be okay with my actions. At the time, I was going through a really emotionally abusive relationship. I didn't know, I felt powerless. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was really confused how I got to that state of mind because I didn't know how to really express myself. Looking back, I realized that that was the turning point in my life to trust myself and build my confidence again.